July 5th. Thank you for joining me. Grab a coffee and let's get smarter together. All material things seek both their lowest energy state and to be at an equilibrium with their surroundings. In its logical consequence, this means that all material things will become part of patterns, collective intelligences, until all parts are joined in one large structure. It's a step-by-step process. Strings, elemental particles, atoms, molecules, cells, plants and creatures. And there will be a next level because we are far away from the final stage of one large network. It must be a next level at which cellular structures from the current level connect to become the next higher collective intelligence, because bioelectricity as a cognitive glue merging cells into, for example, humans, has found its limits in megafauna and megaflora. So simply creating ever larger networks out of cells until everything in the universe is connected this way doesn't work. And there's evidence that nature has found the solution for the next mechanism that enables competent piles of cells like humans to come together to a larger emergent agent, a new collective intelligence. For that, I point to Angela Tung's work, done in her thesis in Michael Levine's lab. In her research, she looked at groups of embryos that were exposed to teratogenic influences that would normally cause developmental defects. By communicating and working together, these embryos were better able to overcome those kinds of influences. The larger the group, the better the outcome. The communication in this case wasn't verbal, of course. Like I worked out in yesterday's post, the mechanism to become a collective intelligence on this level was most likely based on electromagnetism in some way. But this bioelectricity can't have worked exactly the same way as when cells are merged, because the embryos retained their bodily independence. Since the mechanism represents in the brain, not just that of humans, as mirroring, part of the same data used to generate another creature in the world is used to generate the self, let's take a closer look at the electromagnetic bonding mechanism that works in a similar fashion: covalent bonding of atoms. A covalent bond is an interatomic linkage that results from the sharing of an electron pair between two atoms. How? Well, an atom consists of a nucleus, a tightly packed pile of protons and neutrons that's orbited by electrons. While neutrons are, as their name points out, neutral, protons carry a positive charge, what means the nucleus is positive overall. Electrons are negative, and thus, following the electromagnetic force, they are attracted to the nucleus until there are as many electrons orbiting the nucleus as there are protons packed into it. Again, this is one of the moments when a higher level structure is created from lower level structures. Consequently, the electrons don't orbit the nucleus willy-nilly. Where option space is distorted, they will only use certain orbits that will guarantee that the atom overall will reach its lowest state of energy, while the parts are all at an equilibrium with each other. The innermost orbit can hold 2 electrons, while every orbit or shell after it can hold up to 8 electrons. One shell must be completely filled before the next orbit farther out is stuffed. So, an atom like carbon with 6 electrons will have 2 electrons on the innermost orbit, the one shell, and 4 on the outermost orbit, the 2 shell, or in this case the valence shell, because it's the last one. Since it has 6 electrons to balance its 6 protons, the charges are balanced and it should be happy as a clam. And yet, it isn't. It yet again has a surroundings it isn't in equilibrium with, and there's the question whether the lowest energy state has been reached yet. It's a bit like the story about the fisherman and his wife and never being successful in being happy. Cue the octet rule. It's more like a tendency of atoms to prefer to have 8 electrons in the valence shell. Shell. Remember, carbon has only 4. Just adding 4 more electrons doesn't work, as the nucleus hasn't enough electromagnetic force to attract more than 6 electrons. The solution is joint custody. The atom finds other atoms that still need to fill spots on their valence shell, and it's a matter of I share one of my electrons with you if you share one of your electrons with me. The binding arises as both nuclei are equally attractive to these 2 electrons in question. Carbon does this, for example, with 4 hydrogen atoms to form CH4, or methane gas, the one that comes out when you fart. And again, a higher level structure is created from lower level structures, here a molecule from atoms. The molecular structure will not be random. Here again, the option space is bent, distorted. The angle of a bond as well as its length are determined to be those for which the overall molecular energy is released while the parts are at an equilibrium with each other. The energy that's released that way is the foundation for the increase in the new structure's ability to store and process information, the collective intelligence. Coming back to Angela's embryos, it's this energy, but on a much higher level, that allows a greater robustness of development. So what's the embryo's nuclei? What's on their orbits? And what is the equivalent of the electrostatic attraction of a nuclei that pulls in what's on the outermost orbit of another embryo? What is it in a grown human? And can we direct this energy to have control over the partners of our covalent bonds? You know, energy flows where the mind goes. Are charismatic leaders simply those with more open spots on their valence shell? And is charisma thus a question of reactivity? Explore as an honest think. Make a habit out of thinking. Let's turn thinking into the norm again. Like, comment, share, and follow, lest you miss a single opportunity to improve yourself and society. Once you do, we meet again at the coffee pot.